We live in the age of freedom. Or at least that's what we were told. Everything around us seems designed to give us the power of choice. Thousands of contents, infinite connections, pleasure at the click of a button. But what if, in reality, we are more controlled than ever? What if the enemy of consciousness is no longer pain but constant pleasure? Here's the paradox. The more stimulation we have, the less presence we feel. The more distraction, the less direction. In this video, we will dive into an essential provocation. Could it be that the freedom we live today is nothing more than a well-produced spectacle? We will explore how entertainment became anesthesia, how easy pleasure is undermining our willpower, and why saying no might be the most revolutionary act of our time. Get ready to see everyday life through a new lens, more critical, more conscious, more profound. We live in an era where the distance between desire and reward is just one click. Before, achieving pleasure required effort, time, and even a healthy dose of frustration. Today, instant pleasure has been democratized through screens, just a swipe of the finger. Accessing a world of sensory stimuli, series, games, shopping, superficial connections has never been so easy. And so dangerous. It's no exaggeration to say that a culture of reward without sacrifice has been created, a celebration of the immediate that empties the deeper meaning of achievement. This radical ease has transformed our emotional baseline. Gradually, we have been conditioned to expect immediate satisfaction for any discomfort, like children demanding candy before dinner. The logic of patience and maturation was traded for the logic of now. Who still knows how to endure boredom? Who can handle a silent afternoon without visual appeals? In every small digital relief, the brain learns to crave more of the same, reducing our ability to endure our own emptiness. What looks like freedom, the ability to click and have, is, in fact, a disguised form of emotional prison. When pleasure is always easy, it ceases to be a choice and becomes a necessity. Dopamine, that charming neurotransmitter, becomes our invisible ruler. Each click releases a dose, and each dose creates a new hunger. It's the invisible addiction no one fears because it comes wrapped in beautiful, socially accepted forms. Deep down, we are living an era of continuous entertainment, but also of continuous fragility. As Seneca warned, nothing, for those who have lost the habit of effort, seems more painful than freedom. True freedom does not live in the easy click, but in the ability to choose to resist it. If we don't reflect on this, the click will continue to guide us, until there is no one left at the internal helm. In 1985, Neil Postman wrote a prophetic critique called Amusing Ourselves to Death. While many feared an Orwellian domination, based on censorship and repression, Postman saw an even more dangerous scenario, a society drowned in irrelevance. It would not be fear that would control us, but constant laughter, endless distraction. And he was right. Today there's no shortage of information, but almost none transforms us. We are fed fragments, memes, and headlines until the mind gets used to not thinking anymore. Postman's criticism of the cult of superficiality echoes in every timeline. Entertainment became the new language of the world. Everything must be light, fast, and pleasant. Even tragedies come with soundtracks and editing effects. There is no time to delve deep. No time to doubt. The more fun the content, the more it circulates. The more it circulates, the less it matters whether it's true. The result? A freedom that seems full but that is, at heart, a well-directed show. It's curious to think that social control no longer demands silence but laughter. The system doesn't need to silence voices, just make sure we are too busy to hear any of them. Between one notification and another, between one video and the next, our sense of urgency for what's essential evaporates. Life becomes a sequence of well-packaged distractions, while profound questions about existence, purpose, justice, are pushed to the back of our minds like tabs that will never be opened. Thus, freedom became a functional illusion. We have choice but not time. We have a voice but don't listen. As the philosopher Byung-Chul Han said, the excess of positivity sickens us. And that excess comes precisely from the dictatorship of entertainment, which doesn't prohibit, but also doesn't allow us to think. Modern oppression doesn't imprison the body, it captures the attention. We are surrounded by conveniences that promise comfort but silently weaken us. Everything that demands effort is seen as obsolete. Why cook if I can order? Why walk if I can swipe? The problem isn't the conveniences themselves, but the habit of avoiding any discomfort. Pleasure without effort has created a generation hypersensitive to frustration, anxious for instant results, and intolerant of the natural slowness of internal processes. This mentality corrodes one of the most essential pillars of emotional health: willpower. Willpower is like a muscle, it weakens when not used. By seeking immediate pleasure all the time, we stop training patience, resilience, and focus. And without these internal resources, any challenge becomes an unbearable burden. What should be a simple "not now" becomes an emotional collapse. We lose control over ourselves, and with that, we lose real freedom. Dopamine, the substance associated with motivation and pleasure, has become the legal drug of our time. Every new stimulus, a like, a message, a funny video, releases small doses that make us feel alive. For an instant. But like any drug, it demands a price. The brain adapts, demands more stimulus, less effort. And life, which should be full of meaning, turns into a race for sensations. We are more connected than ever, yet emotionally exhausted and dependent. It's necessary to rescue the value of effort not as punishment, but as a portal to authenticity. As Viktor Frankl said, when life loses its meaning, man seeks pleasure as compensation. Seeking the easy way is often an escape from a deeper emptiness. True strength lies in choosing the longer path when we know it's the right one. Not for the difficulty itself, but for what it reveals about who we are. Aldous Huxley, in Brave New World, anticipated a scenario where social control wouldn't be imposed through pain, but through an excess of pleasure. And this prediction, made in 1932, sounds today like a frightening mirror. In the novel, people are conditioned from birth to seek comfort, avoid any form of suffering, and consume constantly. The drug soma was used to eliminate any anguish. Sound familiar? Today, pleasure has become anesthesia, a constant distraction that avoids confrontation with our own inner reality. What Huxley showed, and what we are now living, is the silent collapse of critical consciousness. The more stimulation, the less reflection. The more distraction, the less depth. In a society that avoids silence, introspection becomes almost a threat. After all, stopping to think may bring uncomfortable truths, and no one wants discomfort. So we continue in a constant flow of quick gratifications, while losing contact with our essence. And the most tragic thing is that we call this freedom. We live in an era where questioning hurts more than obeying. Choosing discomfort has become subversion. That's why the excess of pleasure isn't just a symptom. It's a system. A system that educates for passivity, rewards conformity, and calls it happiness. It's easy to live anesthetized, hard is to wake up. But without that awakening, we become spectators of our own lives, consumers of our own souls. As Nietzsche warned, the free soul is rare, but we recognize it when we see it. It is the one that does not fear the abyss within itself. And the abyss is not revealed in pleasure, but in the silence between stimuli. Perhaps that's why we are so afraid of disconnecting. The emptiness we find there isn't the problem. It's the reflection of how much we have already lost of ourselves. The numb mind does not realize it is numb. And that's where the danger lies. When we stop feeling, we also stop thinking. The ability to question is born from discomfort, from the inner restlessness that asks for answers. But if we are constantly anesthetized by entertainment, stimuli, and easy rewards, that restlessness never manifests. The result? An army of minds that seem free but are emotionally tamed. People who don't think repeat. Who don't choose follow. That's why entertainment, although seemingly harmless, can be more dangerous than censorship. Censorship provokes resistance, revolt, reaction. But continuous pleasure soothes, accommodates, dissolves any desire for change. Censorship says, you cannot think about this. Entertainment says, you don't even have to. And this subtle invitation to apathy is the most efficient form of control. Because no one rebels against what they believe they chose freely. Pleasure has become a tool of subtle domination, because it is accepted with gratitude. It doesn't force anything, it just offers. But it offers so much all the time, that the person doesn't realize how much they are being led. Like a child distracted by sweets while an adult decides for them, the numbed mind thanks for the rewards while slowly surrendering its autonomy. There are no screams or visible bars, only the hypnotic comfort of distraction. If we can't endure the absence of stimuli, it's because we've already been captured. And for those who no longer think for themselves, every form of control is invisible. It's urgent to relearn how to feel, so we can return to thinking. There's a silent paradox in the endless pursuit of pleasure. The more you chase it, the less it satisfies. The human nervous system was not made to handle constant stimulation. When the brain is repeatedly exposed to intense sources of pleasure, it adapts, and begins to demand increasingly larger doses to produce the same effect. What was once pleasurable becomes routine, and routine loses its magic. Thus begins emotional desensitization, a state where everything feels small, insufficient, boring. This desensitization makes us incapable of appreciating the simple, because the system has learned to react only to the extraordinary. A conversation without a cell phone feels like torture. An afternoon without stimuli feels like punishment. Yet ironically, it's within this normality that the deepest bonds of life reside. When we no longer feel joy in being present, in observing the world with attentive eyes, it's a sign that something inside us has been numbed. And the most concerning thing, we call this freedom when it's only saturation. Apathy disguises itself well these days. It wears the clothes of freedom, autonomy, and lightness. But in practice, it's emotional emptiness. We laugh more but feel less. We express more but connect less. As if we are always on but never whole. It's the paradox of the age of abundance. Everything is within reach except true satisfaction. Because feeling deeply demands something we've forgotten. Pause, silence, presence. This is where Epicurus' philosophy becomes surprisingly relevant. Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. The uninterrupted pursuit of pleasure is the shortest path to emptiness. Maybe true joy lies less in chasing new stimuli and more in recovering lost sensitivity to what is already here, now. Sliding a finger across the screen has become the new rhythm of existence. Each downward movement brings a new promise. Of laughter, information, shock, or fleeting identification. But it quickly passes. Then comes another. And another. Life has become an infinite scroll, where the next thing always seems more interesting than the current, until it too becomes disposable. We no longer live the content, we just consume it. And this consumption doesn't nourish. It only fills for seconds before creating new hunger. Behind this incessant flow lies an uncomfortable truth. We are trading depth for quantity. We lose focus, time, and gradually, meaning. We jump from stimulus to stimulus like emotional castaways, clinging to fragments that don't sustain. And the more content we ingest, the emptier we feel. Like a plastic banquet, where the flavor deceives but the nourishment never comes. Entertainment has become the soul's sugar, sweet, but toxic in excess. This digital overdose steals something precious from us. Productive solitude. That state where, by disconnecting from the world, we connect with ourselves. Today, even solitude must be filled with videos and sounds. But this filling is treacherous. Because it doesn't eliminate loneliness, it just disguises it. Deep down, many live constantly accompanied. Yet still feel lonely. Not from the lack of people but from the lack of true presence, including their own. It's within this invisible kidnapping that the drama of our time resides. The internet didn't just take our attention. It also took our desire. Desire to be, to deepen, to seek something that doesn't fit in 15 seconds. As Guy Debord warned, everything that was directly lived has moved away into a representation. And if we don't become aware, we'll live life like a feed, scrolling, skipping, passing by until the end. Avoiding pain seems natural. After all, who wants to suffer? But there's a profound difference between avoiding unnecessary suffering and avoiding any discomfort. The first is intelligence. The second is emotional cowardice. When we choose immediate pleasure to escape difficult feelings, we aren't protecting ourselves, we're just postponing the inevitable. And the more we postpone, the weaker we become in the face of reality. Pain doesn't disappear. It accumulates silently, waiting to collect its debt. This constant flight makes us prisoners of the short term. The desperate search for immediate relief prevents us from making choices that require sacrifice but build meaning. We don't study, we procrastinate. We don't talk, we ignore. We don't feel, we distract ourselves. But everything we avoid feeling now will return amplified later. Because life doesn't allow us to grow without confrontation. And all unprocessed pain becomes a shadow, and shadows don't vanish, they swallow. In this context, discipline emerges as one of the most authentic forms of rebellion. In a culture that pushes us towards the easy, the quick, the superficial, being disciplined is an act of silent resistance. It's choosing today's discomfort to reap tomorrow's freedom. It's giving up empty pleasures in the name of something greater. And this demands courage. Courage to say no when everyone says yes. To stay when everyone runs. To feel when the whole world distracts itself. It's not about romanticizing suffering, but about recognizing that it carries transformative potential. Pain faced with presence becomes a bridge. Pain avoided becomes a prison. And as long as we continue to anesthetize the now, we will be cultivating a future full of emotional cracks. Feeling hurts, but running hurts even more just later. Constant pleasure is a powerful anesthetic. It masks discomfort, silences restlessness, and soothes anguish. For a time. But what feels like relief today becomes a burden tomorrow. It's like sweeping emotional dirt under the rug. It disappears from sight but not from the system. Suffering doesn't vanish, it waits. And when it returns, it comes loaded with accumulated frustration, regret, and a silent question. Why did I let it get this far? This paradox defines a generation that has everything but feels nothing. We have access to information, connection, comfort, and technology. But we lack purpose, direction, presence. We live anesthetized, hopping from pleasure to pleasure without giving anything enough time to truly touch us. And this absence of true contact with pain, and with authentic joy, turns us into emotionally shallow beings who confuse agitation with intensity and relief with happiness. Seeking pleasure has become a sophisticated form of escape. We don't just flee external pain but internal truth. The truth that discomforts, demands change, confronts the image we've created of ourselves. But truth doesn't fall silent before pleasure, it just whispers lower. And when we stop running, it's there, intact, waiting to be heard. Fleeing from truth is living in dissonance. And living in dissonance is, by definition, a slow and constant form of suffering. As Dostoevsky said, the secret of man's being is not only to live but to have something to live for. Pleasure without purpose is just noise. It may entertain but it doesn't sustain. It may fill time but it doesn't fill the soul. The suffering we avoid today is often the price of the truth we refuse to see. And only when we choose to stop running do we begin to truly live. Freedom is not doing everything you want. That's impulse. True freedom is being able to say no, even to what you most desire when you know that desire, deep down, is a trap. Easy pleasure is a seductive master. It whispers that you deserve it, that you don't need to wait, that you can have it now. But what it doesn't tell you is that by always giving in, you are giving up your own autonomy. Freedom is not the absence of limits but the ability to create them through consciousness, not fear. Saying no to immediate pleasure is an act of silent strength. There are no applause or trophies. There's only you with yourself. But in that contained gesture lives the birth of a new kind of power, the power to choose with clarity, not with neediness. Those who learn to resist the momentary impulse gain access to a rarer, deeper, and longer-lasting pleasure, the pleasure of being whole, of owning themselves, of living with purpose. The person who chooses purpose over distraction is, in truth, rediscovering what it means to be alive. Because purpose is not just about grand causes, it's about being present in every choice. And that includes giving up the shortcut. The extra video, the impulsive purchase, the immediate reply. Every no said with awareness is a yes to something bigger. Your peace, your clarity, your freedom. To be free is not to have everything. It's not needing everything. It's being able to live in peace even in the face of desire. It's looking easy pleasure in the eye and saying, today I choose something greater. And that choice, repeated in the silence of the days, builds a kind of freedom no one can take away. In a world where everything invites you to escape, resisting immediate pleasure is almost an act of subversion. Not because pleasure is an enemy but because when it becomes constant, it robs us of our sense of direction. The journey we're walking here is not about denying pleasure but about reclaiming control of our own lives. Understanding that freedom begins when a no to impulse creates space for a deeper yes. The yes to purpose, to consciousness, to the necessary silence to hear oneself. Maybe you never realized how much entertainment silences you. Or how much the pursuit of relief hides the pain that needs to be faced. And now, with these reflections comes the question, out of everything you consume in your day, what truly nourishes you? What brings you closer to who you want to become? Where you want to go? I want to know, which of these ideas provoked you the most? Have you noticed this cycle of distraction and pleasure in your routine? Leave it in the comments, your experience might awaken someone else. And if something here touched you or shook you inside, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications.